Hello everybody and welcome to this discussion of the endgame collapse reveal for Dead by Daylight. This week we're bombarded with all sorts of news and this reveal was unexpected but welcomed. So what is the endgame collapse? What does it change and how will this affect the upcoming patch? The endgame collapse is designed to be an exciting and dynamic way to play the game. This was revealed on their YouTube channel. I will not show footage of their video as it's theirs and it's not mine to provide really, but I will link the video for you guys so you can look at the endgame collapse and what it will look like. Their video will also explain how it works and give you the basics, and I'll still give you a recap here, but I'll go more in depth of what they mean. The collapse introduces two new mechanics to the game. Killers can now close the hatch and also open the exit gate. When the exit gate is opened or the hatch is closed from an open position, then the collapse is triggered and the event begins. A progress bar appears on the top of the screen to indicate a 3-minute countdown. This bar will cause a bell to ring when it starts, and each time 25% of the meter is depleted to warn the survivors of how much time they have. This will also be accompanied by a screen shake. The timer will be slowed down if a survivor is in dying state or hooked. For any survivors remaining in the game when the timer reaches 0, the entity will arrive, spiking them from the ground and sacrificing them immediately, and it does count as a standard sacrifice for the killer. If the killer closes the hatch, it can only be reopened by a key, otherwise it remains closed. When the hatch is closed, the doors will be powered and generators will be locked by the entity's grasp, preventing them from being completed. Any generator incomplete at this time will remain that way. This locks in the killer's generators but gives the survivors a chance at escaping through a front door, giving the survivors 3 minutes to react. So what does this really change? Not too much, honestly. This is essentially a 3-minute timer to put an end to the game instead of requiring the killer to wait for survivors to leave. The major changes are the fact that the killer can cancel the hatch standoff and open a gate. These two changes are probably what make the greatest difference. So why would the killer want to open the exit gate? The answer is simple. This is a new way for killers to concede the match and end it faster. Instead of a killer losing all of their blood points having to disconnect because a survivor remained behind, wasting the killer's time, the killer can enforce a 3-minute cooldown, forcing survivors to rush out. Of course, you could try to use this to your advantage as well with some endgame perks or certain builds and strategies, but it is rare that an open exit gate would lead to a survivor's death. Killers will be able to retain their blood points and retire in the basement if they no longer wish to proceed. Remember though, they can only open the exit gate when all generators are powered, so if you're having a rough time and generators are still being fixed, and you wish to quit, you'll have to look towards that quit game button or yell for Ma to pull the plug once again. The addition of a close hatch feature returns and is finally making it into the game, which is the most important, as this has been a problem for well over 2 years. We were able to test this very feature a year ago, and it seems that it was going to save us from those dreaded hatch standoffs, but they chose not to implement the change because they were reworking the endgame completely instead. The collapse is that very end game. They also mentioned last year they wanted to add a concede button for killers to end the game where they felt defeated and wanted to walk away but retain their points. This would be why they included these two features together. It was exactly as they promised, but in a far more flashy way. So how does this affect survivors? If you care about your pips, it'll affect your end game chances to gain emblems. Otherwise, if you don't care, well, it shouldn't really affect you at all. The timer itself isn't a great threat if multiple survivors are alive. It'll only activate when a door is open, so it'll let you know that you have a way out once it appears. You have 3 minutes to get out, which you should be easily able to run an entire map's length in under a minute, so you really aren't pressed for time. If the killer is chasing you with a chainsaw, maybe you're in a little bit of trouble, but you are likely going to die at that point anyways, but somebody else who's not being chased definitely has a free way out. If you're worried about your emblems though and your rank, then you're going to have a slightly harder time if your game either goes too smoothly or not in your way. And what I mean is, if you didn't see the killer all game and the generators are all powered, you're going to have a rough time making up that evader emblem. Personally for myself, I farm my evader emblem at the end if I was the gen jockey for the game. The same goes for benevolence. If you didn't take the opportunity to save anybody during the game, but all the gates are powered and someone opens that door, you will have 3 minutes to save anybody who gets left behind. Of course, if they get hooked, you get a little more time to your name, but this becomes a risk. Now, it doesn't make it impossible, it's just going to be slightly more difficult. I guess it's also important to mention that the hatch will actually spawn for the last survivor, regardless of how many generators are complete. This gives the last survivor always a fighting chance, giving you an incentive not to be caught out first and try to remain the last, as you will have an opportunity to escape. As far as perks go, many of those should remain the same. They'll interact as they always do based on the rules they have. As an example, Fired Up works based on how many generators are completed. You get 1 token for each completion. So if the killer closes the hatch and the timer starts with only 1 generator completed, then Fire Up stays at 1 stack, even if the gates are opened. No One Escapes Death is another example, as it only activates after all generators are powered, so there's no fear if the hatch closes and you're the final survivor, since, well, the last generator will never be fixed, you don't have anything to worry about. Blood Warden will still only activate when a gate is open and a survivor gets hooked after the fact. This will, however, hold survivors in for up to an entire minute, which could put them in a dangerous spot if they were playing a little too cheeky at the end. Other perks will also be seeing a rework though, and these perks are Remember Me and Left Behind. They've been confirmed by behavior to be receiving a rework, but have not confirmed what the changes actually are. Another rumored change, not confirmed, is the Pig's Traps, as one of the developers responded that there is likely a logical change coming to prevent it from being an unfair advantage for the pig. We don't know what the change would be, just that they said the word logical, and some people are afraid that it's going to nerf the pig and make her traps useless for the endgame. We're not sure, it's just a rumor, but it would be interesting to see what they do change it to if they do, but I also welcome no change at all. It may be a very powerful thing for the endgame, but it also gives a little bit of dynamic play that they wanted. If survivors don't want to open the exit gate, try to help their allies get the thing off their head first, but then the pig opens the exit gate and now everyone's freaking out. I think that would be a very dynamic way that they're trying to meet, but we'll have to see for that one. Overall, the change to the end game is a visually appealing 3-minute timer. The greatest change to the game is the ability to concede and closing the hatch. The hatch feature actually should have been implemented a year ago, to avoid the year of pain waiting for this small mechanical update. Hatch standoffs were so bad to a point where I, as a killer, just stopped caring about getting kills. I just always let the person get the hatch. I got tired of the killer pride of wanting to wait it out. Those 40-minute waits or just having people take forever just to leave was getting immensely annoying. And honestly, I'm a little upset we had to wait a year for them to re-release it, just slightly more pretty than it was before. The final note to bring up is that we should also remember that Freddy was said to have his entire power overhauled, and this was meant to be overhauled with the collapse in mind. And whatever the change to the power will be is going to incorporate the endgame collapse in some way. Rumor has it that the PTB will be on April 23rd, and we'll likely be able to confirm Freddy's new power and all the changes then. I'll be there to inform you of all my findings. So several people also stopped by my stream and sought out my thoughts on this, and to be honest, for me, it's nothing I'm excited about. It's a timer that just causes survivors to leave the game. I would be shocked to see anyone die to the collapse itself without letting it happen, or Blood Warden blocking them in the last minute due to over-altruism. The effects look amazing though. I commend them for making an amazing feature for it being such a simple change. I had fully expected this to be something completely different, and I actually did say I would love some destruction of the world on stream, and to be honest, they provided exactly that. The world collapses, and that's fantastic. That's a really cool thing to have. I just think that the mechanical change of everything was too simple, but the visual addition is fantastic. Out of everything to come from this, I'm really excited to see if they release any lore bits in regards to the collapse, on how it might bring the entity and summon them by powering the exit gates. Maybe the entity just gets really upset at the killer and just has to intervene, and it takes it 3 minutes to come by and just murk everybody. I'm just really excited about small things like that. I am, however, a little underwhelmed that we suffered the entire year, as I've said, with this hatch standoff thing. I am very upset that it's the hatch standoff as we tested it. The only difference is it does power the exit gates, but now it just doesn't power all the generators, and that was something suggested a year ago, and it didn't come through, and because they wanted to rework the whole thing, and instead of reworking the whole thing, they just added a 3-minute timer, and that's it. I don't really feel this was such a dynamic change of gameplay. Instead, I feel like if I'm playing Survivor, 3-minute timer comes up, I know a door's open, I walk out. It's as simple as that. I don't really have a reason to stay, I never do. I've always recommended that everybody run out, else suffer a killer getting a free kill due to your mistake, and now this is just more incentive to leave. I do like the idea of conceding, as I always said, and I really like the idea of the hatch being closed. And those are the two mechanics coming in that I'm very happy about, so that's that. With that being my thoughts, what are yours? Do you think this extends beyond just a 3-minute timer? Do you already have plans for endgame builds or strategies that you're going to incorporate into the collapse? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. We'll jump back onto the TydeTyme videos once Behavior stops releasing news. It's really hard to get those videos done when we have to look forward to what's coming, and I really can't complain. It's wonderful how much content we're getting that's going to change quite a bit in the upcoming mid-chapter patch, but you know, I am still trying to get those other videos done. They will come as soon as everything calms down here. So thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and as always, good game.